So Dana White's Contender Series is going to be coming up around halfway point this year, around July sort of thing, and you might be thinking, why am I talking about Dana White's Contender Series so early? Well, the first fight that was announced for Dana White's Contender Series in 2022 was announced in March, which means that the contracts were probably all sorted out around February, March, which means that Dana White and the team, or whoever is, I know it's probably not Dana White anymore, but the team that is scouting for the Contender Series is scouting right now, so I feel like it's a very appropriate time to make the video. And this is about the lightweights that I think should be on Dana White's Contender Series. This is a shorter list. I think there's still like 20 fighters on this list, but it is a shorter list than my flyweights and bantamweights, and I think we're probably going to see shorter lists than my flyweights and bantamweights as we go through, because I just don't have as good of a grip on every other weight class aside from the flyweights and bantamweights. I feel like that's more like my specialty weight class, but let me know what you think in the comments. If you've got anyone that I've missed, let me know as well. Let's just get straight into it. As always, the first fighters on the list are returning fighters or locks, in my opinion. Fighters that should be guaranteed on the show. Colton England's a returning fighter. He lost on Dana White's Contender Series in 2021. He got knocked out by Manuel Torres pretty quickly, but I believe it was somewhat controversial. I think there's an eye poke or something in there. And then after that, he has gone on a 3-fight win streak, all in the space of like 2 or 3 months, really. And I think that he's probably earned himself another shot on the show, you know what I mean? 3-fight win streak. Fought on the show before, UFC already knows about him. I think Colton England could be a pretty good addition to the show. The next one is a lock of the show, George Hardwick. There's almost no way this guy either doesn't just get signed straight to the UFC for a UFC card in London or UFC card in the UK in general, or he fights in Dana White's Contender Series, in my opinion. I think George Hardwick is going to be on Dana White's Contender Series. I wouldn't be too surprised maybe if he defends this bout one more time, or maybe the UFC just picks him up straight up, but I think George Hardwick is definitely going to be in the UFC at some point. This next one is a weird one. It's Joe Gennady. He's actually fought in the UFC before, which is why I don't know if he'll be suitable for Dana White's Contender Series, but if you look at his career, way back when in 2018, he actually went pretty far on the Ultimate Fighter, the undefeated season 27, which is actually a pretty good season in my opinion. It wasn't the best, but it wasn't that bad. And then he lost a split decision to Mike Trizano, and UFC were like, nah, we're not giving you a contract. Mike Trizano stayed on. And then, yeah, he went on just throughout the regional scene. He's been hustling. He lost a couple of fights in there, but he's on a 4-fight win streak right now. I believe he should be able to beat Saulo Almeida. He could be on a 5-fight win streak coming up soon. He fights out of a big gym. I feel like Dana White's Contender Series might not be the most appropriate place for him to make a comeback into the promotion, but I do think Joe Gennady will get signed in the UFC in 2023, or I hope so anyway. This next one here, a fighter which I think is relatively confident in getting into the Dana White's Contender Series, is Malquizal Costa. Malquizal Costa, you see this guy in the corner of many UFC fighters. I think he was in Joanderson Brito's corner last time I saw him. I could be wrong, could have been someone else, but he is in a lot of corners. You do see him sticking around with the Brazilian UFC fighters. He does fight a shoot box. It was Tapology affiliation anyway. But he's on a 2-fight win streak right now. He did lose to Italo Gomez in a fight which he was expected to win, but since then he's on a 2-fight win streak. He's bounced back. He's got a win in LFA recently. He's got a good record. He's got the connections with big name UFC fighters, or at least UFC fighters in general, to get him at least on Dana White's Contender Series. And then the next ones here are just kind of guys that I think are probably deserving or worthy of the contract for various reasons. My laptop is not playing ball though. It is crashed. I've literally, all I've got is Chrome and a bunch of tabs open, and this is embarrassing. So the next one is Siwon Park. Now Siwon Park is only 20 years old, but he is 8-0. He is from South Korea, and he hasn't really fought the best competition in the world, but he has had an amateur career, and he's beaten a 4-0, 3-0, and 5-1 opponent. Siwon Park, he's only 20, but he's from South Korea, and I feel like that is somewhat important here because the UFC wanted to put on a show in South Korea, but because the Korean Zombie was injured, they didn't think that they could actually sell out the arena, so they've cancelled the show and just moved it to Las Vegas. But on that show, it kind of showed that they, on that card, I mean, it kind of showed that they need more South Korean fighters on the roster if they want to fill up the card with all South Korean fighters. If you notice the UFC 284 card has almost every fight has an Australian fighter on it. The UFC 283 card, every fight has a Brazilian on it, so I feel like maybe they want to try and sort out the same sort of thing with South Korea. I'm just going to close these tabs so my computer doesn't cry, which is really embarrassing. But it's actually a really good laptop too. It was very expensive, but it's a few years old now. But James Lontop's the next one. He's from Peru. They recently signed Daniel Marcos from Peru. I feel like there's kind of like an area they probably could get into because there is a lot of really good fighters out of Peru. I mean, I've got a few on my bantamweights list, and I think a couple of my on my featherweights list as well. James Lontop, 11-2, 23 years old. Good wins on his record too, 6-2, 5-0, and 20-11. I don't know. He's just so young, and he's from Peru. Maybe that's an area they could get into. Another one is Ignacio Capella. He's from Spain. He's 7-1, and he also doesn't really have the best wins, but he does have a couple of good wins on there. 7-3 win, 4-1, 11-6, and 8-3 are his last opponents, and he's on a 7-fight win streak since then. I believe all of his wins are finishes as well. One of them is a finish, but still a pretty good fighter. This next one is Yikang Zhao, 23-5. I don't know if you guys remember this, but I believe it was 2021. Dana White's Contender Series featured a lot of Chinese fighters towards the end. Like, there was like 6 Chinese fighters on the last 2 episodes alone. Like, you could tell that UFC were trying to get into the Chinese market, and they are, because they've got a UFC Performance Institute in China, in Shanghai. So they want to get into the market. Yikang Zhao could be a pretty good addition to that. He has fought in a massive promotion and won before, but since then he has left and gone on a pretty big win streak. Not really over the best competition in the world, but he did fight and won. He wasn't really fighting that great competition and won either, but I don't know, maybe he could be a guy to put on Dana White's Contender Series, see what he can do. Another one, Aili Mulate-Beki, is 13-2, but he has not fought anyone great. I mean, he has fought Zitan, who was 15-3 actually, I lied, but aside from that, it's a little bit sketchy. Debut, 1-0, 2-0, when he's got 12 fights, 1-4. A little bit sketchy, but I feel Ali, I don't think I'm ever going to pronounce his name as good as I just did. That's so natural. Aili Mulate-Beki, 13-2. I think he could be an addition as well. Sergio Kosioth, but 25-8. Maybe a little bit too old. I mean, he debuted in 2011. I don't know what his age is, but this guy's definitely at least 32 years old for sure. But yeah, he's gone on a really good win streak recently over good opponents too, like Alan Zaniga, who's 13-1 at the time, and I think he's a pretty good prospect as well. 9-5, 23-13, 8-2 as well. Some standouts in competition that he recently fought, and he's gone undefeated since 2018. I feel like you've got to reward that hustle, you know what I mean? And give him a Dana White's Contender Series shot. I mean, he's got so much experience. If anything, it'd be just a really good guy to test prospects in the UFC, really. Next one is Alex Sanchez, who's 13-3. He's from Mexico as well. UFC is pretty desperate to get into the Mexican market. I believe they've got a performance institute in Mexico, or at least they're thinking about it. They're giving Brandon Moreno constant title shots all over the place. Yeah, maybe to sign more Mexican fighters. Alex Sanchez on a pretty good win streak right now over pretty good opponents. 9-4, 18-5, 7-4, 4-1, 11-8. They're all pretty good records for the most part. Give him a shot. This next one's a weird one. It's Alvin Espinosa. He's from Nicaragua, even though he was born in Florida, but he's pretty closely associated with the PFL, which is why I don't know for sure how I feel about him getting on Dana White's Contender Series. He fought for the PFL twice last year, kind of in like bonus fights, and now he's going to be on the Challenger Series for PFL's lightweight, and if he wins that, there's a chance he will get signed to the PFL. But if he wins and then doesn't get signed to the PFL, it's an opportunity for UFC, to just put him on Dana White's Contender Series, you know what I mean? And he got an 8-0 prospect if he wins this fight on Dana White's Contender Series. And then if he wins, he's 9-0, and he's also representing Nicaragua, which I don't think is a country represented in the UFC at all. This next one is Predrag Bogdanovic. He is 13-0. I don't know his age, but he's got to be pretty young because he hasn't been in the UFC for very long. Sorry, not UFC, and MMA for very long. 2019 he made his debut. He's fought every fight in his career in the Serbian Battle Championships, which is cool. You do like to see that, a promotion building him up, and there probably isn't that many promotions in Serbia anyway. But I think it's time we give him a Dana White's Contender Series shot, man. This guy he's got to be young. He can't be that old. And he's beaten 8-1, 6-3-0, 6-0, 9-3, 9-4, 7-4, 12-1, 18-6 opponents. a lot of decisions in there, but I think he's 13-0, man. You got to give him a shot. If he wins, he's 14-0, and you just got a really good prospect. This one is Lucien Kaita. He is from Guinea, which would be a very good country for Kaita to represent, especially to get into. Sorry, give me one moment. Sorry, team. Yeah, especially to kind of have someone representing that country, because I don't think Guinea's super well represented in UFC. He's been in good competition as well. I mean, before he went to Octagon, he fought nobody of note really. But since then, he fought a 9-3, 13-7, and 39-7 opponent. And he's also got a winner in a Muay Thai belt, which is random, but he could be a pretty good sign-in for Dana White's Contender Series. Johnny Hopper, 7-1, 7 finishes. I believe almost all of them are in the first round. Even if you look at his amateur career, they're almost all in the first round. His one loss was a split decision. He's beaten somewhat decent competition on the regional scene, but I think it is about time we give him a step up, and Dana White's Contender Series could be that. I think could be a good opportunity for him. Next one is loading Conrad Dushka, 15-2. Level of competition as of recent is a little bit sketchy. I mean, he took a 12-13 opponent to decision, but he beat an 8-8 opponent, and he beat a 31-13 opponent. Just a guy with a really good record, you know. At the end of the day, but it'll be interesting to see if you could test him against someone in Dana White's Contender Series. And the next one is Milson Castro. He's 14-3. He is 29 years old. He is actually fighting Roosevelt Roberts, and the reason why he's on this list is because I actually think he might be able to beat Roosevelt Roberts. And Roosevelt Roberts is a UFC caliber fighter. I mean, he got cut from the UFC, but he did have, I think he had a win in the UFC, but yeah, he was in the UFC, and then he's won twice since. So if Milson Castro beats him, that's a really good look. That's a win over a former UFC fighter as of recent. Could be a good option. Magomed Kabadiev, he's from Russia. He was born in Kazakhstan, apparently. Good wins in his record. I believe he's pretty young. He's only 27 as well. Sorry, guys, if you don't know, I'm sick. This is really bad. At least it's at the end of the video, huh? I'm going to add him a save 9-0 with a couple of really good wins. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Sorry, team. I'm coughing up a little bit. So thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. It'll probably be welterweights or some random YouTube video. So thank you guys. I'll see you in the next one.